Caitlin Clark has rejected Unrivaled. Again, and this time the fallout? It's brutal. Let's set the stage. Unrivaled launched with the promise of being the cooler, edgier, flashier alternative to the WNBA. You know the type? Neon lights, moody promo shoots, buzzy sponsorships, and a 3x3 format that nobody asked for, but sure, let's pretend it's innovative. From the beginning, it was obvious who they were chasing. They wanted Caitlin Clark. Badly. They dangled money. Exposure. The pitch was clear. Be the face of our league, not the league. Escape the WNBA drama. Write your own rules. Take control. And for a second, people wondered, would she do it? Because Clark's relationship with the WNBA has been rocky, to say the least. Constant targeting, questionable calls, league silence, and the media circus around her every.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
You can make the case that maybe, just maybe, she'd be better off jumping ship. But here's the kicker. Her fans weren't having it. At all. Poll after poll. Thread after thread. Fan pages. Reddit. TikTok. YouTube comment sections. The message was loud and clear. Caitlin, we're with you. But not if you go there. Why? Because despite all the chaos, all the controversy, all the internal issues in the WNBA, fans still see it as the real league. The authentic league. The one that actually represents the history and heart of women's basketball. Not some stylized, startup-wise sideshow built on vibes and LED graphics. And Unrivaled has done nothing to convince people otherwise. Let's talk about the product for a second, because this is where things go from disappointing to downright embarrassing. The broadcast quality? Looks like someone filmed it on a potato. The graphics? Confusing. The commentary? Weirdly forced. The gameplay? Yeah. The 3x3 format might be fun in Olympic doses, but as a full league, it's giving rec league energy, not pro basketball. And don't even get started on the marketing. You'd think with all that tech/startup money behind it, they'd have a better pitch than "we're not the WNBA." But nope, that's basically it. Their whole brand strategy has been look how different we are, while forgetting that the WNBA has actual games people care about. But hey, they had one card left to play, Caitlin Clark. They thought if they could just land her, everything else would follow. Viewership, sponsors, clout. They saw her as the cheat code, the golden ticket. And she said no. Again, no drama, no press conference, just absence. The absence that speaks volumes. Because when a player of her magnitude won't even consider your league despite all the offers on the table, that's not just a rejection. That's a message. I see what you're doing, and I don't believe in it. And now, the Unrivaled commissioner is scrambling. Sources say offers were restructured. New sponsorship deals were pitched. Behind-the-scenes meetings got heated. And when the second no dropped, the tone shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't about celebrating athletes. It was about damage control. They try to pivot. It's not about one player. Okay, but your entire marketing rollout said otherwise. Your whole strategy hinged on Caitlin Clark, and now that she's not coming, the league looks like a stage with no star. And here's the part that's hard to swallow. Unrivaled could have been something. It really could have. If it had taken its time. If it focused on building a product, not a spectacle. If it treated women's basketball like basketball, not a branding opportunity. Instead, they try to fast-track a revolution. But you can't manufacture trust. You can't fake authenticity. And you definitely can't expect fans to follow you just because you cut a check. That's what the Unrivaled team doesn't get. Caitlin Clark doesn't just have fans. She has loyalists. People who don't care where the money is. They care about where the game feels real. And right now, that's still the WNBA. Even with the issues. Even with the politics. Even with the chaos. Because at least the WNBA means something. Unrivaled feels like a startup trying to cosplay as a movement. And here's what makes Clark's rejection so powerful. She didn't have to say a word. She let her absence speak. She let her silence do the work. And the message rang loud and clear. I'm not for sale. And that's power. Because when the biggest name in women's sports turns down your disruptive league twice, you don't just lose a player. You lose your credibility. Now, Unrivaled is in full-on panic mode. Ratings are low. Social engagement is lukewarm. Sponsors are nervous. The buzz is flatlining. And the fans? They've made up their minds. They've picked their side. They want to see Caitlin Clark succeed, but not at the expense of the game they've loved for years. They want real basketball, not Instagram basketball. They want competitive grit, not curated girl boss content. They want storylines, not storyboards. So where does Unrivaled go from here? Honestly, it's looking bleak. Because without Clark, they've got a handful of names, a flashy logo, and a format no one's really excited about. And with the fans this openly hostile to the idea of Clark joining, good luck changing that perception. The damage is done. And if the Unrivaled commissioner wasn't panicking before, they absolutely are now. Because they didn't just lose a star. They lost the face of the sport. And when that face turns away from your league, not once but twice, the message isn't subtle. It's surgical. I'm not your savior. I'm not your shortcut. I'm not your brand. So here's your final mock moral of the day. If you want to build something that lasts, don't chase stars. Build something they want to be part of. Otherwise, you're just another league trying to sell a vibe, while the real game moves on without you. Now go ahead, drop your thoughts in the chat. Would you have watched if Caitlin joined Unrivaled? Is the WNBA flawed, but still the gold standard? Can a new league ever survive without the fans' blessing? Hit that subscribe button for more sports meltdowns, league misfires, and the stars who aren't here to play by your rules. Because in a world full of wannabe disruptors, sometimes the biggest disruption is saying no. This is not the headline the new league wanted plastered across basketball discourse, but here we are. The supposed next big thing in women's hoops has been begging, pleading, and throwing money at Caitlin Clark like she's the last lifeboat on the Titanic, and she keeps shutting the door. The league is called Unrivaled, but right now, the only thing unrivaled is Clark's ability to make them look desperate. And honestly, it's kind of iconic. Let's start from the top. Caitlin Clark has basically rewritten the script for women's basketball. She isn't just a player, she's a phenomenon. Every time she touches the court, TV ratings jump, arenas sell out, and suddenly, people who couldn't name a single WNBA team 6 months ago are tweeting about her. She's that rare cultural lightning rod that makes sports execs salivate, because she doesn't just bring fans, she brings money. And a lot of it. The WNBA knows this. ESPN knows this. Nike knows this. Everyone knows this. So when Unrivaled popped up, branding itself as a flashy new alternative, a 3x3 league with slick logos and promises of player empowerment, they knew they needed one thing to be taken seriously: Caitlin Clark. Without her, their ceiling is low. With her, they might actually have a chance to stand next to the WNBA without being laughed out of the room. But here's the problem. Caitlin's fans are not having it. Not even a little bit. Polls, comments, Twitter threads, it's all the same chorus. 75% of fans flat out reject the idea of her playing in Unrivaled. And these aren't casual fans. These are the diehards who would buy anything with her name on it. These are the people who can make or break a league. And they're saying, nope, we're sticking with the W. Now, you might be wondering, why such hostility? Shouldn't fans want Clark to cash in on any opportunity available? Well, yes and no. On one hand, everyone agrees she deserves a paycheck that actually reflects her value. This is someone who can move hundreds of millions in revenue, but makes a fraction of what a bench warmer in the NBA pulls in. It's laughable. But on the other hand, Unrivaled doesn't feel authentic to them. To a lot of fans, it reeks of gimmick. A startup trying to cut in line without building the foundation that makes real leagues work. And fans can smell desperation. They know when a product is trying to use their favorite player as a shortcut to credibility. Unrivaled's big pitch is basically, come play 3x3, it'll be cool and different. But ask yourself, did anyone ever wake up in the morning begging for women's 3x3 basketball broadcast in low res with weird camera angles and Instagram style, branding slapped all over it? Exactly. The product doesn't excite people, and that's the core issue. The marketing hasn't helped either. Instead of focusing on the game, they've leaned on vibes, glossy promos, vague empowerment slogans, The kind of branding that looks good in a pitch deck but falls flat when you actually turn on the TV. Compare that to the WNBA right now. With Clark in a mix, games are pulling in real numbers, like we just outdrew Major League Baseball on a Tuesday night numbers. Meanwhile, Unrivaled can't even scrape together 200,000 viewers. That's not just a gap. That's a canyon. And here's where the panic sets in. Without Clark, what does Unrivaled really have? They can recruit stars, sure, but none of them carry her gravitational pull. Not Angel Reese, not Sabrina Ionescu, not even established legends. Clark is the one who moves the needle on ratings, sponsorships, merch, and headlines. The league is basically trying to build an empire without the one queen who can actually crown it. So when Clark's fans say no, over and over again, it doesn't just hurt. It threatens the whole business model. Imagine trying to launch a superhero franchise without your main hero. It's like saying, we've got the Justice League, but no Batman, no Wonder Woman, no Superman. But trust us, you'll love Green Lantern. Yeah, good luck with that. What makes this even wilder is the loyalty dynamic at play. Fans don't just love Clark, they love what she represents. To them, she's not just an athlete. She's a torchbearer for the WNBA, for elevating the league to the mainstream, for proving that women's basketball can pull in audiences that rival the men's side. Throwing her into some startup league feels, to many fans, like betraying the movement they've been fighting to grow. They don't want to see her wasted on something that looks like a flashy detour. And you know what? They're not wrong to be skeptical. History is littered with failed alternative leagues and sports. Remember the XFL? Remember when Ice Cube launched the Big Three for men's basketball? Sure, they had their moments, but none of them cracked into the mainstream. Fans don't stick around for gimmicks. They stick around for the real thing. And the WNBA, with Clark in it, feels like the real thing. Meanwhile, Unrivaled has another major problem: presentation. If your league looks cheap, it feels cheap. Sports are entertainment, and entertainment is all about perception. When your broadcasts look like a high school live stream, people notice. When your gameplay feels slow or forced, people check out. And when your big selling point is we're different, but that different isn't actually better, you're doomed. Now, picture being the commissioner of this league right now. You've put everything on the line for this grand vision, convinced investors, sold the idea that this was the future of women's basketball, and the one player who could actually make that true won't touch you. Instead, her fans are roasting you online, saying your league is a gimmick, that you're out of your depth, that you're basically trying to leech off the WNBA's moment. That's not just rejection. That's public humiliation. It's almost poetic. Unrivaled wanted to be the disruptor, the league that shook up the status quo. Instead, they're watching as the WNBA thrives like never before, fueled by the very player they couldn't land. And here's the kicker. Even if they somehow convince Clark to play, would her fans actually follow her there? Or would they revolt even harder, accusing her of selling out? That's the trap. Clark is so valuable that even her absence can sink you, but her presence, if forced, might not even save you. This whole saga is a reminder of one brutal truth in sports. Leagues don't make stars, stars make leagues. Caitlin Clark isn't waiting for Unrivaled to validate her. She's already validated. She's proven she can draw massive audiences in the WNBA, the NCAA, or probably even at your local YMCA if you gave her a ball. The league needs her way more than she needs the league, and that power imbalance is showing. And that brings us to the fallout. Where does Unrivaled go from here? Do they double down, throw even more money at Clark, and risk looking even more desperate? Do they pivot, pretending they were never banking on her in the first place? Or do they quietly fade into the background, remembered only as that one weird experiment that couldn't get off the ground? None of those options look great, which is probably why their commissioner is sweating bullets right now. For fans, though, this is kind of satisfying to watch. There's a sense of poetic justice when a flashy startup tries to jump the line and gets shut down by the people who actually care about the sport. It proves that loyalty and authenticity still matter. You can't just buy credibility. You have to earn it. And until Unrivaled proves they're more than just smoke and mirrors, they're going to keep running into this wall. So what's the moral of this whole meltdown? Simple. You can't manufacture greatness. You can't slap together a league, throw some marketing slogans on it, and expect fans to follow blindly. Not when Caitlin Clark exists. Not when she's already elevating the WNBA into must-watch territory. If Unrivaled thought they could shortcut their way into relevance by dangling cash in front of her, they just learned the hard way. You can't outbid authenticity. Caitlin Clark has rejected them again, and her fans have made it crystal clear they're not leaving the WNBA bandwagon anytime soon. That's not just a rejection, that's a statement. And unless Unrivaled figures out how to stand on its own, without leaning on the biggest star in the game, its future might already be written. So what do you think? Is Unrivaled doomed without Caitlin Clark? Or can they somehow claw their way into relevance? Drop your thoughts below, because this drama is far from over. And if you're enjoying the chaos, make sure to subscribe, because you already know there's always another meltdown just around the corner. The rejection wasn't supposed to happen again. That's what makes this whole thing so dramatic. You'd think after the first time Caitlin Clark turned her back on Unrivaled, the league would have read the room, licked its wounds, and maybe recalibrated. But no, like a character in a soap opera who just doesn't get the hint, they came crawling back with another offer, another round of big promises, and another shot at snagging the golden ticket. And what happened? Clark shut the door again. Twice rejected. Double ghosted. At this point, it started to look less like negotiation and more like a full-on restraining order. What makes this sting is that Clark isn't just any player. They're chasing after the single most marketable athlete in women's sports right now. She's basically the Taylor Swift of basketball, a cultural juggernaut who doesn't just play the game, but reshapes the entire ecosystem around her. She sells tickets, jerseys, commercials, you name it. Her presence is the difference between an empty arena and a sold-out show. And when you're Unrivaled, a brand new league with no real track record, you can't afford to miss on someone like that. But here they are, fumbling the bag in slow motion. Now, let's not act like Caitlin's rejection is random or petty. This is chess, not checkers. Clark's fans, the same fans who've been carrying her through NCAA records, through draft night, through every single headline, have been crystal clear. They don't trust Unrivaled. They don't want their favorite players sucked into what they see as a sideshow. And the wild part is, Clark is listening to them. That's rare. Most athletes, when they hit stardom, start chasing whatever bag lands in front of them. Clark is playing it differently. She's betting on the long game, the WNBA, the league that has history and credibility. That loyalty, ironically, is exactly why fans love her more. She's reinforcing their trust. It's like a feedback loop. Fans show up for her. She shows loyalty to the WNBA. Fans double down on supporting her even harder. Meanwhile, Unrivaled looks like the awkward ex who keeps texting hey at 2 a.m. and wondering why nobody answers. And here's where it gets hilarious. Imagine being the commissioner of Unrivaled right now. You've pitched your investors this shiny dream. Don't worry, Caitlin Clark is the future of women's sports, and we're going to have her in our league. That's how we'll stand out. Everyone nods, signs checks, gets excited, and then reality hits. Clark doesn't just say no once. She says no again. Your investors start side-eyeing you. The press starts clowning you. And fans are out here running polls showing 75% of Clark Nation wouldn't touch your league, even if you begged. It's like planning a wedding where the bride doesn't show up twice. At some point, maybe stop running the tux. But let's go deeper. Why exactly do fans despise Unrivaled so much? Part of it comes down to presentation. Sports, at the end of the day, are entertainment. If your league looks like a pickup game live-streamed on someone's iPhone, no amount of branding can save you. Fans notice when the camera work is janky, when the commentary feels amateurish, when the gameplay itself lacks energy. And 3x3 basketball? Sure, it has its place in the Olympics and backyard courts, but does anyone really crave it as a televised league? Not really. People want the drama of full games, rivalries, team identities. They don't want a highlight reel stretched into an entire season. Unrivaled thought different meant better. But in sports, different without substance is just weird. And fans can sense when they're being sold a gimmick. They've seen it all before. The XFL, the USFL, the Big Three. Startups that claim to revolutionize sports, but usually crash and burn after a couple of seasons. Nobody wants their favorite player wasting prime years in what feels like a sideshow. And honestly, the numbers don't lie. The WNBA, with Clark, is pulling ratings that rival actual mainstream sports. Games are averaging millions of viewers. Major networks are slotting them in prime time, and sponsorships are flooding in. Clark has made the W a must-watch event. Contrast that with Unrivaled struggling to even scrape together a couple 100,000 viewers. You don't have to be a business genius to see the writing on the wall. One league has momentum. The other has vibes. That's why the panic is setting in. Without Clark, Unrivaled doesn't just lose a star. They lose their chance at legitimacy. No matter how much money they offer, no matter how many slogans they print, fans won't care without that anchor. And here's the kicker. Even if, by some miracle, Clark said yes, would her fans even follow? Or would they revolt, accusing her of selling out and abandoning the league that actually built women's basketball into a growing cultural force? It's a lose-lose situation, and it's brutal to watch. What makes it even juicier is the broader dynamic at play. Athletes now hold the power. Back in the day, leagues made stars. Now, stars can make or break leagues. Caitlin Clark doesn't need Unrivaled. She doesn't need their money, their stage, their gimmicks. She's already proven she could draw attention wherever she goes. The league needs her way more than she needs them. And that's why her rejection stings so hard. Think about the symbolism here. The league that calls itself Unrivaled is being rivaled by reality. Their whole pitch was we're bold, we're new, we're different, but in practice they're just standing on the outside, nose pressed to the glass, watching the WNBA eat up all the spotlight. And every time Clark says no, it's another reminder that they're not even in the same conversation. So where does this go next? Honestly, the league has three options. 1. Keep chasing Clark and look even more desperate every time she rejects them. 2. Pivot away from Clark and try to build around other stars, which is like saying you'll build your movie franchise without your main character. Good luck with that. Or 3. Accept the L, shrink expectations, and admit you're more niche experiment than revolution. None of those options are sexy, and none of them are what investors signed up for. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark keeps winning. Every rejection strengthens her narrative as the loyal superstar. Every WNBA game, she lights up adds another layer to her legend. Every poll, every fan comment, every clapback at Unrivaled proves she's not just an athlete, but a movement. And movements don't switch sides for a quick payday. It's almost Shakespearean, really. The league with the boldest name can't land the boldest star. The upstart that promised disruption is being disrupted by the very fan base it hoped to woo. And the player at the center of it all? She doesn't even need to say much. Her silence is louder than any press conference. Her absence speaks volumes. So let's hand out a few fake awards, shall we? Most desperate text message energy goes to Unrivaled for sliding into Caitlin's DMs again and again, hoping this time she'll say yes. Best power move by doing absolutely nothing goes to Caitlin Clark for rejecting them twice without breaking a sweat. And finally, loudest fan base with the smallest patience for gimmicks goes to Clark Nation for making it very clear that their queen is not leaving the WNBA anytime soon. But what about the moral of the story? Because every meltdown needs a takeaway. And here it is, you can't buy authenticity. You can't shortcut your way into legitimacy. Fans aren't dumb, and athletes aren't pawns. If you want to build something real, you have to earn trust. Unrivaled hasn't done that. And until they do, they'll keep sitting on the sidelines while the WNBA and Caitlin Clark take center stage. So yes, the commissioner is in panic mode, and honestly, they should be. Because if you're rejected once, maybe it's bad luck. If you're rejected twice, that's a pattern. And in sports, patterns turn into narratives fast. Right now, the narrative is simple. Caitlin Clark doesn't need Unrivaled, and without her, Unrivaled might not even survive. The clock is ticking. The lights are dimming. And unless something changes fast, this might go down not as the birth of a new empire, but as one of the most avoidable flops in basketball history. So tell me, Do you think Unrivaled has any shot without Caitlin Clark? Or is this league already toast? Let's hear in the comments, because this saga isn't over yet. And if you're loving the drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because you already know we'll be here to cover the next meltdown, the next fiasco, and the next panic spiral when it inevitably explodes.